President and CEO Michael Chirihino, and we will submit the same as soon as it is approved and signed by our President and by this DOF Secretary Benjamin Jokno as chairperson of the Social Security Commission. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney. We look forward to your position paper. So next is the GSIS.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Morning.
Hi, good morning.
GSIS. GSIS generally supports the bill, granting incentives to creative industry. Since most of the members of the creative industries are presumably under SSS, since they are employed by private companies and entities. So, konti lang yata for government, no? But rest assured, if they are employed by the government and they are automatically members of the GSIS, and they will be under the coverage of GSIS, including the benefits. So, as to the benefits granted, I think under the law, I presume that this will be funded by the GAA, so hindi mo naman masyadong effect on the GSIS. But we go also with the same observations and comments of the SSS insofar as benefits, since both of us are pension fund manager. Ano lang sila, the private and the government naman sa amin. But in general, we support the bill.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Next is PhilHealth.
Good morning, Your Honors.
Good morning. Go ahead.
This is Neil Bautista.
Go ahead, Neil.
PhilHealth supports the bill and lauds its intention. However, may I comment already on the funding source?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because there is no mention of fund source for PhilHealth coverage in House Bill 1281. That's it, Your Honors. We will submit our position paper. May I also mention that Ms. Melody Gabuya is also with me.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. PhilHealth fully supports the passage of this House Bill. For this will further strengthen its program for the coverage of the intended beneficiaries. With the implementation of the Universal Healthcare Act, all Filipinos in need of medical care are now guaranteed automatic entitlement to PhilHealth benefits, regardless for whether may contribution sila or wala at the time of admission. This is in accordance po with Section 9 of the said Act. Anyway po, although the law provides that they are automatically covered by PhilHealth, their premium contributions is in accordance pa rin po with the monthly income that they will be declaring to PhilHealth. So that's it, sir. We will be submitting our position paper for this.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Ched.
Mr. Chair, there's no representative from the CHED.
Okay. How about the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities?
No representative as well, sir.
TASDA?
There is.
Go ahead, TASDA, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Honorable Committee.
Hi, Attorney Joyce.
Hi po, our Secretary, Attorney Danilo Packing, and our Legislative Officer, Attorney Omali, are in an equally important meeting. So allow me to present the position of TESDA regarding the House bills being heard right now. So as regards the benefits, the scholarship benefits for Filipino creatives, under Section 5 of House Bill number 1281, we affirm providing scholarships to eligible Filipino creatives seeking to study and avail of our courses subject to existing training regulations as provided by Section 5. It is in our mandate to serve our special clients, which comprise all facets of Filipinos, artists included. Mr. Chair, can I also present our position on Section 17?
Which bill are you referring to?
4540.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. As regards the second or alternative careers given to these artists, we know that the accredited artists acquired skills and talents throughout their previous career professions, which would aid in upskilling and reskilling the current creative and art-based qualifications of TESDA. Hence, we suggest that the same be captured in the bill, particularly under Section 17B. We suggest that we suggest changing the words commission-based as well into institution-based, as this is the phrase that we are currently using. Taking this into consideration, Mr. Chair, we actually prepared a specific phraseology, particularly for Section 17B, to read as follows. Trainer for upskilling and reskilling the existing creative and arts-based qualifications as provided by TESDA through ladderized education in coordination with the NCCA through the former's institution-based, community-based, or enterprise-based programs, whichever is applicable. Further, we highly recommend entrepreneurship and livelihood programs as alternative careers for these accredited artists, as creative-based qualifications offered by the agency are immensely limited. We have some relevant qualifications which encompass various sectors such as creative, visual arts, and information and communications technology, namely lighting for live performances, NC2, film and video post-production, NC3, audio production services, NC1, illustration, NC2, photography, NC2, animation, NC2, 3D animation, NC3, 2D game art development, NC3, 3D game art development, NC3, visual graphic design, NC3, and 2D animation, NC3. Following Section 17C, the agency agrees to coordinate with the POAA and develop mechanisms to allow accredited artists to discover employment opportunities abroad. In fact, Chair, we actually partnered with them in the conduct of World Cafe of Opportunities. So, partner na po natin sila. So, we can work with them if this bill passes into law. So, we commend the intent of the proponents for these bills, and please be assured that TESDA's continued support. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Attorney Joyce. So let's move on to DHSUD.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry I cannot put on my video.
That's fine.
Pricing. Mr. Chair, I noticed two provisions. One in House Bill 1281 regarding the giving priority in national housing programs, affordable babahay loans, and other housing opportunities. Mr. Chair, this provision should be addressed to NHA and Pag-ibig, but and the other one too, in House Bill 4540 regarding the Artist Village. Yeah, this one too shall be addressed to NHA, but we will just as well submit our own position paper for these bills, Mr. Chair.
All right, Comsec, kindly take note. Is NHA with us? Comsec.
NHA and Pag-ibig, Mr. Chair, because it was mentioned.
Are those agencies with us today?
NHA is not represented, Mr. Chair. Pag-ibig has a representative.
Great. Okay. So let's hear from Pag-ibig then. Thank you, Attorney Alvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Pag-ibig Fund's position paper is currently under its final review in our office, but we'll be submitting it as soon as the review is completed. The fund fully supports the bills as they provide incentives and social protection to Filipino creatives. Notably, these particular sector are actually mandatorily covered by the fund under Rule 5, Section 1A4 of the Implementing Rules of RA 9679 or the HTMF law. We'd like to discuss further some of our comments to provisions of the bills. For House Bill 1281, particularly Section 4G, which provides priority to Filipino creatives in affordable housing loans, We find that this particular provision would entail giving them more importance than the fund's existing members. The fund lives by its mantra of serbisyo mula sa puso and serves its members with utmost fairness and transparency. To do otherwise would be a great disservice to our more than 14 million members. And nonetheless, without giving that particular priority to them, rest assured that creatives are given, or as soon as they become members of the fund and meet our eligibility criteria for prevailing guidelines, they would benefit from these particular programs in lending and savings. Furthermore, for Article 3, Section 9 of House Bill 4540, wherein the bill acknowledges the importance of the fund as one of the social security programs of the government. As mentioned earlier, creatives are actually mandatorily covered by the fund, and the opportunity to become registered members would allow them to enjoy various provident housing benefits offered by the fund. The list of programs will be enumerated in the possession paper. Lastly, for Article 3, Section 10 and 11, in relation to Section 9 of 4540, we find that it may be excessive to require the principal or collecting agent to pay an annual amount if the artist's contract with the principal is for a shorter period or a project-based. Under RA 9679, the member's monthly contribution, together with the corresponding employer's monthly contribution to the fund, ceases if the member resigns or is otherwise separated from employment. In the case of artists with a shorter contract or is project-based, the principal's fiduciary obligation ceases at the end of the contract. So we recommend the payment of contributions would be for the duration of the contract with the principal or its extension if applicable. Now, if the employment is classified as that of the regular employee, then the payment of contributions shall be in accordance with the prevailing guidelines of Pag-ibig Fund. I forgot to mention, with regard to the Artists Village, as pointed out earlier, Pag-ibig Fund is open to providing financing to the project proponent through our group housing loan program. So it would come in the form of loans. So with that, thank you po from Pag-ibig Fund.
Thank you so much, Anela. We look forward to your position paper, also just to formalize everything. Next, we invited the Hotel and Restaurant Association of the Philippines, although no representative confirmed, the DOT as well as the DOTR. All right, so before we move on to the third topic, which is funding source, do any of the members present wish to propound any clarifications to the resource persons? I see hands being raised from the resource person. So maybe Edie David first and then Ma'am Rowena. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Toff. Okay. Okay, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, on House Bill 1281, Chair Toff, on Section 4, Benefits and Privileges for Filipino Creatives. This is a welcome initiative for filmmakers and film workers, and of course, this would further inspire them to do better in their craft. However, we have some cases, no? Like we would like to see clarification on how this would be applicable to films or projects or beneficiaries where, for instance, the film itself won the award, no? So best picture or best film. So, diba, usually that's accredited to sometimes just the producer or sometimes an entire team of producers. Would the whole production team be accorded with these benefits and privileges, or only a few members of the team or one person in the team? And which members would this be? Again, this might be a long discussion, but we can support this in a position paper that we will submit later on.
When you submit, perhaps you can include some case studies and best practices from abroad.
Sige, check off.
Through your relationships with the other film commissions. Baka there's a similar program that exists. Maybe in Europe, because they really value
Yes, they do.
their film workers. Okay, sige. I'm curious also. I mean, that's also something that we haven't ourselves figured out.
Yeah. Minsan nakikita ko sa Academy Awards, they give all the producers Oscar trophies.
That's why you have this cavalcade of producers who go up the stage.
Yeah.
But we're talking about incentives, economic incentives here that are shouldered by the state. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to afford the whole production team. So, okay. That's a good point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And then we have Ma'am Rowena from DOF.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Hi, good morning.
We have our concern on the provision of discounts, considering the budgetary implication and involved and impact on the consolidated fiscal position of the government. It would mean an additional financial burden that government can ill afford. And also on the proposed tax incentives, the proposal is not equitable and it will set precedent to other groups of individuals. It might prove to be iniquitous as other income earners and professionals in different fields like music, technology, and innovation, who may likewise bring honor and glory to the country, does not have the privilege of similar subsidy. We will submit our positions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Wait, just to clarify, Ma'am Rowena, so obviously there's revenue impact, and it was also mentioned earlier by the BIR. But then in terms of like the tax incentives, are you referring to 4540?
Yes, there is a provision on tax-free incentives under House Bill 1934.
Okay. Okay, so meaning all right. So section 4, it's tax free. Okay. Noted. Thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, before we proceed, we also just want to acknowledge the presence of Congresswoman Rita Robes. Cong Rita, thanks for joining us. And thanks for proposing the amendment yesterday for the digital tax. Okay, are there any questions, clarifications from the members? If there are none, I'd like to come in with my own. Wait. Okay, so for the BIR, and I guess DOF also mentioned it, you said that there's revenue impact of all of these discounts or these incentives. So when you craft your position paper, could you provide us also with data on the revenue impact of the incentives that have been extended to athletes in RA 10699? This is for Attorney Ron and for Ma'am Rowena.
Noted, Your Honor.
Do you have a mechanism to be able to trace that?
Your Honor, I'll check with our operations if whether they can trace that, Your Honor.
Kunwari, I'm Heidelin Diaz, and I will eat at a restaurant, and I'm able to avail of the discount as contained in RA 10699. Like, I'd be curious, like how much discount has been extended as a reciprocity to the hard work, diba? And then second, like, and how many clients based on whatever control or mechanism that you guys have alongside the Philippine Sports Commission. I guess they use their ID, diba? Tama ba?
I'm not sure, Your Honor, but I will check with the operations how they trace the incentives given to athletes, as you mentioned earlier.
Oh, kasi parang I think they get an ID from the Philippine Sports Commission. And then they use that ID, and then it's automatically honored in business establishments. So anyway, those details, just so we have sort of like a benchmark.
Will do, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Ron and Ma'am Rowana. And then for PhilHealth, I suppose when I go back to the health insurance coverage in Section 4D of the Athletes Incentive Law, there's a quadrilla of it being a sponsored program of the PSC or the Philippine Sports Commission. So COMSEC, perhaps we can write to the PSC and ask how much budget is allocated or afforded to this particular program as contained in this provision, Section 4D of RA 10699. COMSEC?
Yes, Mr. Chair, noted.
Right. But perhaps in a similar vein, PhilHealth, would you also have this data on you? And could you possibly include it in your position paper?
Sir, you mean data on the creatives who won international awards?
No, we're talking about
PSC.
Section 4D in the Athletes Incentive Law. Because it says those qualified under the law for the incentives, they get coverage in the National Health Insurance Program. But it says through the sponsored program of the Philippine Sports Commission. So I mean, binabayaran kayo ng PSC for the health insurance of the qualified beneficiaries.
Sir, the PSC submitted a certified number of athletes and coaches earlier this year, sir. So we have the number.
Okay, great. The number. But then it says here kasi sponsored program. So I understand that sila yung nagbabayad ng premium sa PhilHealth. Tama ba?
I am not sure about that, sir, but actually we proposed for inclusion in the GAA that number that they have submitted. And the approved NEP, ano po? Yung number po ay hindi na approve sa approved NEP.
I see. Okay, so I guess perhaps historical data, if that's possible. Parang within the last 5 years prior to this NEP. But I'm guessing in the 2022 GAA, naipasok nyo ba?
No, sir. The national athletes and coaches have no budget in the 2022 GAA.
But what about in previous fiscal years?
We have no coverage for national athletes and coaches in the previous year, sir.
So this law was enacted in 2015. So ever since the law was passed, there has never been budget afforded for that particular provision.
Yes, sir. If I'm not mistaken, sir, I have not heard of the budget for the national athletes and coaches.
Okay, I think which goes back to the law because it says it's a sponsored program of the PSC.
Yes, sir.
So maybe it's not in the PhilHealth budget. It's in the PSC budget.
Tama po, sir.
Okay, so we go back to COMSEC. They'll kindly request for data from the PSC. But PhilHealth, if you're able to provide the data, given your a synergy with PSC, that would be great too. Kasi kumbaga papakiusapan lang namin yung PSC to provide us with that data, although wala man talaga silang kinalaman dito sa mga bill na to.
Yes, sir. I'll ask around, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay. So I'll move on to Tesla, Attorney Joyce. So very grateful to Tesla for all the NC courses that you have been providing to our creative stakeholders. You mentioned quite a comprehensive list. So could you just please give us, in your position paper, just a complete list of all applicable courses for clients covered in RA 11904? Because I personally don't have a copy of that list, although you being part of the implementation of that particular law, you would probably do the same and provide such list to the Creative Council once created.
Yes po, Honorable Chair, we will be forwarding it.
Yeah, all of those amazing courses that you mentioned, yeah, we just need a complete list. But please make sure that all the sectors that are identified in RA 11904 are taken into consideration when you provide us the complete list of courses offered by Tesla.
Okay po,
Okay, thank you. All right, so ComSec, we noted already DHSUD. Perhaps don't invite them anymore to the TWGs, just Pag-ibig and the other one that was mentioned.
NHA, Mr. Chair.
NHA and Pag-ibig. I mean, subject to internal discussions with Kong PM as to the jurisdiction of the committee vis-a-vis his bill. And then for Pag-ibig, okay. So Ma'am Anela.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
You are mentioned in section 4G of RA 10699. Again, sorry, I keep bringing up that law. Again, that was the inspiration for the bill that we are proposing for creatives to complement the incentives for athletes, given that both are able to bring pride to the country and we provide as much value to our creatives as to athletes. May we know if you have this data on you? If not, kindly include in the position paper that you will submit. How much historically have you allocated for pabahay loans for our athletes that are covered under RA 10699?
Mr. Chair, we'll have to check with our databases for that. We'll provide it with the position paper.
Yes. So how much and how many registered clients do you have?
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Because as compared to the program of PhilHealth for athletes, it says under section 4D, through a sponsored program of the PSC. So it's understandable that PhilHealth doesn't have annual allocations for that particular program because it's sponsored by the PSC. However, when it comes to housing and pabahay loans and opportunities for the athletes, it doesn't say it's a sponsored program of PSC. So you must have some kind of budgetary allocation in your agency for athletes. So let's just kindly furnish us with that data when you submit your position paper. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the final topic of the hearing, which is the funding source. GCGG was invited, although they don't have a representative. They sent a position paper, which we were able to quickly browse. They interposed no objections, but they actually yielded to the GOCCs that are actually invited and are mentioned in the bill. So we'll start first with PAGCOR, and then perhaps move on to DBM and DOF if they have any further comments aside from the ones that they mentioned earlier. So, Pagcor, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honors. Attorney Maylin Almonte from Pagcor. Your Honor, we support the objectives of the proposed bill as this will greatly help our artists. However, Your Honor, we have comment in Section 12 of HB 1281, Your Honor. Your Honor, may we respectfully suggest revision of Section 12, Your Honor. We know that there's a proposal to get the funding from the 50% government share, Your Honor, and may we respectfully request, Your Honor, that Pagcor's funding in Section 12 should be exclusively charged from the remaining 50% of the government mandated share in Pagcor's income instead of the Pagcor's net income, Your Honor. And number two, Your Honor, may we also request that the said funding be limited for a period of 2 years only to enable Pagcor to support the funding requirements of the universal health care, the newly enacted laws, other pending bills, as well as the priority projects of the government. And lastly, Your Honor, may we request that for budget efficiency and successful implementation of the program, may we also suggest that the said funding requirement be similarly imposed to the gaming regulators such as APECO, AFAB, and CESA, given that these agencies also derive income from the regulation and licensing of games of chance, so they are also expected to contribute to nation building, Your Honor. Your Honor, may we respectfully manifest that we will also submit our position paper to fully explain our position. That will be all, Your Honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Attorney May. DBM, DOF, would you like to add anything to what you mentioned earlier?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we defer to the Department of DBM to their position with regards to the implication on the budget. Thank you.
Right. DBM. ComSec, does DBM have a representative?
Miss Clarissa Magno, Mr. Chair. Miss Clarissa Hogno.
Okay.
Is DBM's representative.
Ma'am Clarissa.
Still in the call, Mr. Chair.
Clarissa, you're recognized. DBM.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Jean Cabatana is also present.
Jean. Jean. Yeah, kindly give them a call. ComSec.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right, so I'll go back to Pagcor, Attorney May, just some clarifications. First, could you furnish us alongside your position paper historical data on how much you've extended to athletes since the enactment of RA 10699?
Yes, Your Honor, we will attach the data in our position paper.
Okay, great. And then you also mentioned other GOCCs that can be possible funding sources. Could you repeat what those are, please?
Yes, Your Honor, the agencies are APECO, AFAB, and CESA.
What's AFAB?
The Bataan.
Okay.
Exones.
And CESA, noted. Okay. And then You mentioned something about remaining 50%.
Yes, Your Honor, because
What
in
does that mean?
section, yes, Your Honor, may I please proceed, Your Honor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your Honor, in section 12 of the proposed bill, Your Honor, of the the provision here is that Your Honor, is that for the funding, there are two paragraphs, Your Honor. So first paragraph, Your Honor, I mean second paragraph, Your Honor, that the funding requirement necessary to implement the increase of cash incentives and retirements benefit of this act shall be charged. I'm sorry, Your Honor. May I just go to the bill, Your Honor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your Honor, it is read that the 50%. The first paragraph, Your Honor, it says that the amount necessary for the implementation of the cash incentives and retirement benefits shall be taken from the net cash income of the PAGCOR. And then under the second paragraph, Your Honor, another funding provision which states that the increase of the cash incentives and retirement benefits of this act shall be sourced from the 50% national government share in the gaming revenue of PAGCOR. So, Your Honor, may we respectfully request, Your Honor, that the funding be solely charged from the 50% national government share of the gaming revenue of PAGCOR, Your Honor, instead of the net cash income of the PAGCOR.
Okay, noted.
Thank
The
you, Your
50%
Honor.
national government share, this is yearly, no?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, noted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Is DBM now with us?
Mr. Chair, Ms.
Yeah.
Jean Kabatana messaged me and said they're having connection problems, but will submit their position paper on the matter.
Okay. We look forward to that. All right. So any clarifications from the members on funding source to the resource persons available, at least PAGCOR? Okay. If there are none, I'd like to thank our resource persons for taking their time to study these measures. Again, we look forward to receiving your position papers to help us craft the substitute bill. And for the crafting of said substitute bill to consolidate the three measures, can I solicit a motion from any of the members to create a TWG to be chaired by Kong Stella Kimbo, with Kongs Migs Villafuerte, PM Vargas, and Richard Gomez as members?
Mr. Chair, I move that we create the TWG for the said substitute bill. And if all the honorable members present in this committee will agree, I also move, Mr. Chair, to include all members present as co-authors of the substitute bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Kong Len, yeah, is that a second?
Second the motion, Mr. Chair.
To both motions?
Yes, to both.
Okay. So just to clarify that, there was a motion to create a technical working group for House Bill 1281, 1934, and 4540 by Kong Len Alonte, Nagyat, seconded by Kong Edward Vera Perez Paseda, and hearing no objection, that motion is carried. There's also a motion to have all the members present be listed as co-authors of said measure. And that motion was also seconded by Kong Edward Masada, and hearing no objection, that motion is also carried. Okay. I think that's pretty much it, unless there are any other comments, clarifications from anyone. Right. So now, since there are no other matters that are to be discussed, can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
Seconded.
There's a motion, Julie seconded. And hearing no objection, the meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hello,
Bye,
Mr. Chair.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tito Pip.
Bill, particularly Section 24 that deals with the insurance for apprentices, as it intends to afford protection for our trainees and apprentices. However, we have a proposed wording for Section 24 that says that every participating enterprise, group, or association, industry organization, government institution, or civic group undertaking training in accordance with the provision of this Act shall provide a disability or accident insurance policy in favor of the trainee or apprentice during the apprenticeship period. We are proposing to change the, the phrase shall provide a disability or accident insurance policy for the reason that it may be construed violative of the insurance code that only the entities or insurance companies duly authorized by the Insurance Commission shall provide insurance policies. For this reason, we are proposing to amend or change the wording of the Section 24 of House Bill 20 and the other bills with the insurance, which deals with insurance for apprentices. The proposed wording will be every participating enterprises, etc., shall ensure that insurance policy is that shall ensure that disability or accident insurance policy issued by an insurance company duly licensed by the Insurance Commission shall be given in favor of the trainee or apprentice during the apprentice period. In that way, sir, the provision will be clear that the insurance policy shall be issued by the insurance company licensed by the Insurance Commission and not the participating enterprise themselves. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Mark Laigo from the Insurance Commission. We have Representative Mark Go.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would like to get the confirmation of the employers group. It says here under Section 24 of House Bill 20, the one who will provide the insurance coverage will be the employers. I would like to get the confirmation of the employers if this is acceptable to them, Mr. Chair, so that we can incorporate it as a major provision once we come out with the substitute bill, Mr. Chair.
Yes, we would like to hear from Mr. Sayo or Mr. Balsikas.
Yeah, Your Honor, if I may speak about that. You know, when we had our discussions with the Department of Education on the strand that involves TVET, Technical Vocational Education and Training, we are looking at cohorts of 10, 20 apprentices going, for example, in a factory. Now, if the factory to be visited is an SME, for example, he will not be able to afford paying for 10 people when the prospect of hiring is probably only one. So when we had our meeting with DepEd, there was an agreement actually that when under their Adapa School program, for example, that they will shoulder the insurance cost. And then there is a related issue there, no? The definition of hazardous places of work, for example. So there are built-in mechanisms under TESDA where the apprentices are provided the necessary protection not to go in those areas. Number three, even the work at night provision has been removed. In other words, if the competency would involve working in the evening, such will not be applicable for the apprentices. So I think those safeguards were taken up, but our objective in ECOP is to provide a legal framework for our members to be able to participate in this program. It is not our objective for them to incur more cost because it will be difficult for us to convince them to actually join the program. So that is our position, Honorable Congressman. Thank you.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, so you are saying in effect, if I interpret you correctly, Mr. Sayo, the one who should shoulder the insurance coverage will be the employee or the individual who will undergo the apprenticeship program in the company where he is going to have the apprenticeship, Mr. Chair. Am I correct with that interpretation, Mr. Sayo?
No, Mr. Chair, I was referring to cohorts. No, I was referring to a group of trainees or apprentices. So in those situations, our objective is to work, for example, with DepEd, who has an alternative learning system, where they have these cohorts of people that are exposed, for example, when they took up their senior high school, they're already exposed to NC1, for example, on motor repair. No. So if we intend to train them further to our chapters that have possible demand for that, we would rather work on cohorts of 10. TESDA's requirement is 25 students. That is their minimum efficient scale. So we would rather participate in a situation like that. So yung individual, kanya-kanya na yon. If there is going to be a specific employer, an SME or an MSME talking to a specific apprentice, that is between the two of them. I don't think the law should mandate that because the cost benefit there is contingent on both parties. Because find the employer and I need people. Certainly, the construction industry are even giving transportation, paying insurance and giving uniforms. So, kanya-kanyang industry yan. They actually pay for that. But we should not have a law that will be applicable to everyone. For example, yung mga nasa band below, they will self-respectively not pay for the insurance. So I suggest that cost issues that be included in the law.
Mr. Chair, if I may, these bills would like to standardize the requirements for having this national apprenticeship program. And one of them is, of course, yung minimum 75% in terms of pay to the apprentices. And at the same time, there are other benefits or fringes, if you may, that will be included here. And this is yung insurance coverage nila. Ngayon, kung iba-iba kasi, depends on who the company having this apprenticeship program, baka magkakaroon tayo ng problema, no? So, mas maganda kung merong standard dito. One of the standards is, yun nga, magkaroon ng insurance coverage, and the suggested based on these bills, apat na bills na ito, would be paid by the employer. Hindi naman yung insurance nila will only be up to the duration of the program na kasama itong mga empleyadong ito or yung individuals na ito. Yun lang naman eh. Yung sinasabi mo is another case. This is actually a situation where there is a partnership between DepEd at saka yung company, no? But this one is an overall provision for all those companies outside of what you're mentioning that would like to have this apprenticeship program. Ngayon, kung iba-iba kasi, depende sa employer, mukhang magkakaproblema tayo. Kailangan merong standard na susundin. And it will guide everybody in terms of itong binanggit natin tungkol sa payment.
I understand, Congressman. And may I therefore request if we can hold our comment on that in abeyance. We have to study that, no? Because in our experience, when we were working, we've been working on this for the past years with Senator Joel Villafuerte, etc. Ang nagiging problema namin, may mga industriya na naiiwan. For example, agriculture. No? So they would rather spend for the transportation of the farmers, for their t-shirts, etc. To mandate insurance in an agriculture setting is hindi bagay eh. So if I may request, because I'm not also an expert in insurance, I would rather that ECOP comes up with includes this specific provision in the position. I understand where you're coming from, Congressman, and I personally agree with it for a lot of industries, no. But there are industries. So for example, we're trying to develop the salt industry. Hindi maaangkop yung i-insure mo pa yung magte-train ka ng 10, 20, babayaran mo yung insurance nila. What can happen in an agriculture setting, no? So kasi coverage insurance mula sa bahay hanggang doon sa field eh. Yung mga ganong issues, Congressman, so if we may comment on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. The comments of Mr. Sayon, Representative Mark Go are duly noted. Before we proceed, we would like to acknowledge the presence of Representative Hernandez, our Vice Chairperson. We would like to hear from Attorney Dave from DOJ, who is with us via Zoom.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I was instructed by the COMSEC that the committee is expecting a comment with respect to the penal clause. Upon review, at this moment, Your Honor, we don't have any objection to all the proposed measures. They're all just subject to style. But as a matter of style, Your Honor, I do suggest that we separate. I think there are three matters being discussed in the sections. One for closure proceedings, and then the authority of the TESDA to file a complaint, and the penal provision itself. As a matter of style only, Your Honor, maybe the committee would want to consider separating all these three topics. And Your Honor, I also suggest that we incorporate a provision for the situation when the offender is a corporation. We can pattern from the revised corporation code for this matter, Your Honor.
The suggestions of Attorney Dave from DOJ are duly noted. Are there any questions from our members of the... Yes, we would like to request the DOJ to submit their position paper just in case they have further suggestions or comments on the penal provisions of our House bill.
Will do, Your Honor.
At this point, we would like to hear from our labor organizations. The first to speak, we have Mr. Mark Christian Villena from ALU.
Yes, we support these bills, but our position paper will be forwarded soon upon review of further review of these bills. But following the discussion, yes, we do have reservations regarding the possible loopholes in these provisions regarding the insurance and the matter of the 75% wage issue. So we will further review these bills and forward our finer specification of our position in these matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Julius Kainglet from FFW.
Thank you very much and good morning, Mr. Chair. Yung pong una po namin comment ay hinggil po dun sa mungkahing pagbubuo ng bipartite plan committee. We would suggest that if unionized, the workers rep to this committee will be appointed by the union. And if not, workers should be electing who this representative to the bipartite plan committee should be. And then in terms of the apprenticeship period, I would want for either the TESDA or the National Tripartite Industrial Peace Council to approve the periods for apprenticeship depending on the competency and the skill po. Under Section 11 naman po, yung pong napag-usapan kanina on the training allowances, since training naman po yung pong context ng apprenticeship, okay po kami sa pagkaka-formulate ng, okay po kami doon sa minimum of 75%. Pero dapat po, kasi po sa dulo po ng provision, may sinasabi na provided nakasama na dito sa computation yung allowances that may be contributed by NGOs or government. So, ang mungkahi po namin, wag na lang pong isama sa computation yung contribution ng NGO and local government kung meron man. Better if kung may ganong arrangement, yung pong enterprise na and yung NGO or government ang mag-usap para integrate doon. Kasi there might be other NGOs who want to support the apprentice, no? Labas po doon sa napagkasundoan with the enterprise. And then, para medyo positive naman po yung pagkakalahad natin, kasi may nababanggit kanina na baka ang presumption ay ma-circumvent yung law, no? I'm suggesting po something more positive, no? Pwedeng ma-terminate your contract of apprenticeship kung ang enterprise ay mag-decide na i-hire yung apprentice, like even if the apprenticeship period is not yet done, and if the enterprise deems the apprentice qualified for the position they are training him for, then we can terminate the contract and engage the concerned apprentice, engage him or her in regular employment. And then finally, on Section 15 on investigation, opo, pwede po mag-imbestiga ang TESDA, pero isamog po natin ialisin po yung visitorial power din ng DOLE. Pwede pa rin pong inspect ang mga apprenticeship program kung meron man mga enterprises at they can exercise po yung kanilang inspection power. Salamat po.
Thank you. The comments of FFW are duly noted. We would like to recognize the presence of Representative Busita from Monrider Party List. Our next speaker is Mr. Louis Corral from TUCP.
Good morning, Honorable Chair. TUCP supports the intent of the bills for experiential-based training in order to upgrade our industries and provide decent jobs for workers. However, we have some comments we'd like to flag to the honorable members of the committee. The first being that it was already mentioned by one labor federation that it would be best that language be present in the bill delegating to the National Tripartite Industrial and Peace Council the identification and determination of the period of apprenticeship for specific professions. We understand that some skills cannot be learned in a 6 months period. However, there is, as has been intimated, room for abuse should an indeterminate period be interpreted as a blank check by employers who would be able to manifest their programs as some form of disguised endo. Now, having said that, we also propose that SSS, mandatory SSS and mandatory PhilHealth be provided the apprentices as accidents do happen, and workers should not be left holding the bag. And finally, on the matter of the selection of the trainers, we would prefer, as was said earlier by TUCP, that experiential-based training be the basis. A success breeds success. It's very hard when our trainers are purely theoretical in their approach. We need people who have actual experience in the field because their best practices would transform our workforce to be more competitive and our companies to be more sustainable and profitable. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The comments of TUCP are duly noted.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a comment.
Yes, Representative Marco.
You know, if the concern I have here is if you will provide them SSS, PhilHealth, and other benefits, it might be misconstrued that these are already employees of the company. And there are certain decisions of the Supreme Court saying that if there is no employer-employee relationship, you can forgo the giving of the benefit of SSS and PhilHealth. If we will mandate it that they should be given, it might be interpreted that these apprentices are already employees of the company or the employer. So having said that, it might not be favorable even when we include the provision that they will be provided, this SSS as well as PhilHealth benefit to our apprentices once we hire them or once we complete the apprenticeship program for these people. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The comments on the SSS and PhilHealth benefits are duly noted. At this juncture, we would like to hear from the management side on their position on the apprenticeship bills. If Mr. Sayo from ECOP has no more further comments, we would like to hear from Mr. Balsicas from PMAP.
No more, Mr. Honor. I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the recognition. Good morning, everyone. On the side of PMAP, we have maybe if I may say, a very radical approach in terms of the change in our apprenticeship laws. No? What we have noticed is that there is no apprenticeship program right now. So watak-watak po yun, meron tayong TESDA, meron tayong sa CHED, meron tayong sa secondary school. No? So we'd like to consider, if possible, there should be a unified approach to this, because if we're saying that our K-12 graduates are supposed to be ready for employment, then they should be given that kind of experience and credentials, if I may say, that they could be allowed to work after graduation. But the problem is there is no such formal training, or that there is no formal mechanism now that will address that. So what we're looking at is to simplify the issue of apprenticeship. Pwede naman natin gawin is we will have one apprenticeship program that will cover secondary, the CHED side, and also the test programs that we have. No? But we're looking at also na yung ating apprenticeship is somewhat not just for the purpose of training, but to treat the apprentices as real employees already. So the duration of the program need to be addressed. No? Like in other countries, for instance, they would go on a 1-year apprenticeship program na bukod tanging ginagawa ng empleyado or ng apprentice is really to enter into the workplace. Empleyado ang nagtatrabaho siya bilang empleyado and is getting paid for it. The only difference probably is for that particular apprentice not to have the security of tenure, because that is not supposed to be attained for the duration of the apprenticeship program. We have a concept paper on this, Mr. Chair. We call Comprehensive Apprenticeship Program. I would like to submit it for the consideration of the body. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Representative Marco.
Yeah, I would like to ask the employer as well as the employees here present. There is a proposed provision here that upon completion of the apprenticeship program, once the employee who has undergone the apprenticeship is hired by the employer, he will not anymore undergo the so-called probationary period. Is this acceptable to our employer, that once you complete the apprenticeship in that company, and if that company decides to hire you, there will be no more probationary period of 6 months as provided by existing law, Mr. Chair? I'm trying to highlight yung mga key provisions para once we consolidate the four bills, this will all be acceptable to our stakeholders, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, may PMAP be recognized?
Yes, we'd like to hear from PMAP.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if the provision, the proposal is to have the apprentice considered already as to have completed the probationary period doon sa kanyang apprenticeship, we have to consider actually the kind of work that is being undertaken by the apprentice. So if the apprentice is really given the kind of work that a regular employee is given, or a prospective regular employee is given, then definitely I don't think that, you know, if you have undergone 1 year apprenticeship, kailangan mo pa ng probationary period. But if and when, for instance, the duration of apprenticeship is only 6 months, and that the work that is being undertaken by the apprentice is not relevant or is only partly relevant to the position that he will eventually occupy in the organization, then I think the probationary period cannot be waived. That is why we're proposing na at the onset, for purposes of determining the technical competence and even attitude of the employee, of the apprentice, no, for the purpose of prospective employment, let's have a longer apprenticeship period na yung ating apprentice would have to undergo, will have to experience what is life as an employee talaga. Hindi siya yung tipong nagsha-shadow boxing na magre-report siya sa eskwelahan, tapos meron naman sa trabaho, tapos ang gagawin hindi yung what is required of the job itself. So again, to cut it short, if the experience being if the work experience of the apprentice during the apprenticeship period is what is supposed to be undertaken during the probationary period, then necessarily the probationary period may not be important or necessary anymore. But if and when yung tinatrabaho niya is only part of what is supposed to be the entire job of that person, and is not even given the total scope of job, I don't think that the probationary period can be dispensed with, Your Honor. Thank you.
So if yes,
Yes, we would like to hear from Representative Mark Go.
Yeah, well, if I interpret our good friend from PMAP, what you are saying is the probationary period may be waived by the employer provided that certain conditions are met. Number one, if and when the apprenticeship is more than 6 months and that the job is relevant to the position that he is applying for, probably the probationary period of 6 months can be waived by the employer. So that is the colatilla that we will provide in the final consolidated version, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, may I add something?
Yes, we would like to hear from Representative Magsino.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition to Rep. Marco, I would like to support this bill, but only a clarification that the apprenticeship program seeks to meet the demand of the economy for trained human resources, enhance existing standards for the training and development of apprentices, and promote full employment of the youth through training and development. Is there a provision in the bill which provides that apprenticeship are guaranteed a regular employment status in the corporation after successfully completing their apprenticeship training? Because this has been a dialogue with our labor sector through being a member of the Labor Committee and the OFW party list. To an apprenticeship, a regular job for which he trained for is the most important result of his efforts and undertaking for obvious reason. Is there a provision in the bill, Mr. Chair? Thank you. Hello.
Yes, there is no provision in the current House bills we are deliberating that will guarantee.
So, Mr. Chair, I think this is very important to be included in the bill because if they pass the apprenticeship for that particular company, I think they should be the first in line to be hired, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, the manifestation of Representative Magsino is duly noted.
Thank you.
May I ask our friend from PMAP if my interpretation of the statement is correct? That definitely you agree with the provision that the period of 6 months can be waived as far as the probationary period is concerned, provided that the apprenticeship is more than 6 months and at the same time the program undergone by the apprentice is relevant to the job that is being offered or that will be offered to the employee, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I would say na tama po si Congressman Go on that regard. No? Maybe what we can do is just to ramify, just to clarify kung ano yung mga requisites in terms of like relevant and then those other requirements to make sure na hindi naman siya yung tipong maabuso o mas-circumvent in a way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Balsigas. Our last person to speak is our Vice Chairperson, Representative Colliantes.
Mr. Chair, may I move to include House Bill 5657, authored by Representative Tambunting, to include in the consolidation of the 4 House bills. It was referred to the committee just yesterday, November 8th. I so move, Mr. Chair.
The motion is approved. So after hearing all the stakeholders, and it seems that there is a motion to consolidate and approve House Bills number 20, 1680, 4651, 5156, and 5657, subject to the amendments or revisions previously raised.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to formally move that we consolidate and approve House Bills 20, 1680, 4651, 5156, and the newly included Bill 5657 and approve the same, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
The motion is approved. Congratulations to all the 5 authors of our revised National Apprenticeship Program. Surely this will go a long way in the enhancement of the skills of our apprentices. Our next item in the agenda is ILO Convention. Yes, Representative
Representative Arlene. Yes.
Arlene Brosas.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to know kung if are approving na yung buong lahat ng mga bills, or Mr. Chair, will there be another deliberation on the substitute bill after?
Yes, the approval is subject to the amendments, subject to style, and the committee will harmonize all the contentious provisions
As discussed.
as previously discussed.
You will present it pa, no, for another hearing, Mr.
Yes, there will be another
Chair, you will
hearing.
present it for another meeting, and there will also be a deliberation on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr.
Yes.
Chair, I would like also to ask kasi may mga certain resource speakers here that would like to also manifest their I think their position regarding this For example,
Yes, in view of the time constraints, we would like to request all the yes for our next meeting to be discussed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yun na lang, i-request ko. So, i-request po natin na makapagsalita si KMU Chairperson, LRay, and all of those na hindi po nakapagsalita ngayon, nakapagbigay ng kanilang mga positions. Mr. Chair, in view of the time constraint na sinasabi.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
they can submit their position papers.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Representative.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. I would like also to move that all members present, including those via Zoom, to be co-authors of House Bills 20, 1680, 4651, 5156, and 5657 as they are consolidated, Mr. Chair.
There is a motion for the inclusion of all members as co-authors.
Mr. Chair, except for me, Mr. Chair, because I still have questions that I will be questioning for the next meeting.
Yes.
I will
Yes.
be gladly to.
Yes, we will give all members an opportunity to speak for our next meeting. So the motion is the motion of Representative
Sorry, Mr.
Mark.
Chair,
Thank you. Thank you. The motion of
Mr. Chair,
Representative Mark
apologies, Mr.
Go.
Chair. Nasa PCW kasi ako, Philippine Commission on Women. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your... So, for the next meeting, makakapagsalita pa po ako at ang mga certain resource persons. Ano? Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. The motion of Representative Mark Go is approved. So we now proceed to our next item in the agenda, ILO Convention 190. We would like to hear from the authors of the three House resolutions. The first representative to speak is Representative Mendoza for House Resolution 32. May we hear from Representative Arenas regarding House Resolution 85?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and to my colleagues. Mr. Chair, the ILO Convention 190, along with its accompanying Recommendation 206, is a groundbreaking moment in the history of the workplace, since it is the first global treaty that recognizes the right of everyone in the world of work, free from violence and harassment. It will be the first time that we will recognize work does not only refer to the job, the workplace, not just the office or where work happens, and the worker, not just the employee but the human being. This global treaty aims to counter all forms of violence and harassment in all workplaces, faced by all types of workers, including but not limited to persons in training, workers whose employment has been terminated, volunteers, job seekers and applicants, individuals exercising the authority, duties, or responsibilities of an employer, encompassing the private and public sectors, formal and informal economy, urban and rural areas where violence and harassment in the world of work exists. Mr. Chair, this humble representation urges the ratification of the ILO Convention 190. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you. We would like to hear from Representative Mendoza regarding House Resolution 32.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bunta, good morning. Mr. Chair, the members of the committee, 2019, the Philippine government adopted the ILO Convention 190, known as this one. Now, as an expression of our commitment to the world of work for free from violence and harassment. House Resolution 32, Mr. Chair, is more of the immediate ratification calling this government C-190. It is groundbreaking, a landmark, a global treaty that seeks to counter and put an end to all forms of violence and harassment in the world of work, confronted by all types of workers. And of course, personnel in training, workers who are in employment is terminated, volunteer, job seeker, etc. Comprehensively defines violence and harassment in the world of work. It encompasses both, as already mentioned, private and public sector, formal, informal. It is founded in inclusiveness, integrated and gender-responsive approach towards realizing our aspiration for the world free from violence and harassment. Ratifying C-190 will establish the current administration and our nation as a modern or modernizing. It will signal that our labor relations and economic programs are promoting a race to the top, hence making our nation more attractive for foreign direct investments or FDIs. After all, good human rights and labor rights is actually good economics. Ratifying this C-190 is also made more urgent by the fact that our millions of OFWs need protection from any form of violence and harassment in their host countries. Should the Philippines become one of the first nations to have it ratified, early ratification would allow other countries to follow suit, ensuring a minimum level of security for our modern-day heroes, OFWs, in their respective host countries. For the protection of our workers, especially women, and of course the OFWs, Mr. Chair, my esteemed colleagues, members of this committee, I respectfully ask for the active support for our dear colleagues in calling for immediate ratification of ILO C-190. Daghang salamat, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, Representative Mendoza. Yes, Representative Mark, go.
Yeah, I would like to ask our good friend, Congressman Raymund, how many countries already have ratified ILO 190, Mr. Chair?
Magandang tanong yan, our very good friend, Speaker Mark Go. Sa madaling salita, I don't have that information, but can we refer first to Mr. Louis Corral, if possible, Mr. Chair?
Yes, we would like to hear from Mr. Louis Corral.
Yes, Your Honor. 20 countries have ratified ILO 190. It came into effect when 2 countries already ratified it in 2021. It would be a signal honor for the Philippines to ratify it. We would be the first ASEAN country to ratify it. And because we are a sending country of many domestic workers who are Filipino women, it would also signal that we will not countenance violence and gender violence, not just here in our own home place and in our own country, but throughout the world. So 21 countries, Your Honors, have ratified. And it would also be, as the sponsor indicated, a modern and modernizing bill. A ratification by the Marcos administration would signal that it is fully on course towards modernizing our economy. Thank you, Your Honor.
May I add, Mr. Chair, in ASEAN, wala pa. Hopefully tayo. So it will be just like the C-151, yung sa public sector unionism, na we ratified, tapos na. So it will be a great moment of history if we can do this. Mr. Chair, and of course, Congo.
Mr. Chair, I would like to state, Mr. Chair, that without ratifying yet this particular provision of the ILO, this country recognizes, the importance of the position of government in terms of being anti-sexual and anti-harassment. We have existing laws already that will, support this particular ILO 190 provision. So having said that, I think there is no problem of ratifying this or requesting the President to ratify this with, of course, with the concurrence of the Senate, this ILO 190, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Marco. Our next speaker is Ms. Joni Simpson from ILO Bangkok.
Yes, good morning, honorable committee members and distinguished guests. I was not expecting to give a speak in, but I can give a few words, and certainly would like to congratulate the Philippines on advancing its discussions towards ratification of C-190 and playing, as was mentioned, a leadership role, in particular in ASEAN. I'd like to correct the information. 22 countries have now ratified, and only Fiji in our broader region of Asia Pacific. So the Philippines could clearly set a strong message of the importance of ending violence and harassment at work, including gender-based violence, but not limited to. And mentioning that there are no major comments right now. We're standing ready to provide any support as relevant, but leaving the process to people here in the committee and constituents and others to advance this, and we stand ready to provide any support needed. Thank you so much, and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you for the comments, Ms. Joni Simpson from ILO Bangkok. We'd like to hear from Director Satumba from DOLE.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. The DOLE supports House Resolutions number 32, 85, and 271, seeking for the immediate ratification of ILO Convention 190. Mr. Chair, in fact, as early as 2020, the DOLE has been conducting initiatives towards its ratification. We created a steering committee, a high-level steering committee, to lead the efforts of the Philippine government in the ratification process. Through the DOLE Research Arm, the Institute for Labor Studies, we conducted a policy gap analysis on ILO Convention 190 to assess the readiness of the country in ratifying the international instrument. And we also conducted a nationwide virtual social dialogue on the convention in February 2021, attended by representatives from employers, organizations, workers' groups, civil society organizations, academe, and the DOLE regional offices. And during a National Tripartite Industrial Peace Council meeting, this is a high-level tripartite policy recommending body in DOLE. Our partner employers groups and workers groups na partners po issued a resolution strongly supporting the ratification of ILO Convention 190. And we are pleased to inform you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, that the Department of Labor and Employment has formally endorsed the documents of the ILO Convention 190 to the Department of Foreign Affairs in April 29, 2022 for its possible ratification. That would be all for Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director. At this point, do we have a motion to consolidate and adopt House Resolutions number 32, 85, and 271?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Representative Marco.
Yeah, actually, I was in that ILO convention in 2019, this one, when it was 2018, yes. So, Mr. Chair, having said that, I would like to move for the consolidation and adoption of House Resolutions 32, 85, and 271, or the resolution seeking for the immediate ratification of ILO Convention 190, otherwise known as the Violence and Harassment Convention of 2019. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes, we would like to hear from Representative Mendoza.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, point of before that Congressman go. Congresswoman Rosas just texted me. She would like to add to the discussion just quickly. I think just having audio problems, Mr. Chair. If you can call her out. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of Gabriela Partilis.
Yes, we would like to hear briefly from Representative Brosas, her sponsorship speech.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
May problema sa audio yata.
Pag-consolidate na tayo, hindi pa ako nakakapag-sponsorship speech with regards to our House Resolution 271. Mr. Chair, malinaw po ba yung aking audio?
Okay na.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Malinaw po ba yung aking audio? Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is my sponsorship speech on House Resolution 271 on the ratification of ILO C-190. Mr. Chair, fellow members of the committee, my dear colleagues, magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. We in Gabriela Women's Party pitched today a very significant call through House Resolution 271 for the Philippines to ratify the International Labour Organization Convention 190, an international instrument which perfectly amplifies that we are advocating as far as ending all forms of violence and harassment against women is concerned. In a monumental and historic move, the International Labour Conference adopted Convention 190 on June 21, 2019, becoming the first international treaty to finally address violence and harassment in the world of work. ILO C-190 also acknowledges that gender-based violence and harassment disproportionately affects women and girls who are subjected to patriarchal gender stereotypes and norms in various socio-cultural settings. For us in Gabriela Women's Party, it is very important to put emphasis and concern on sexual violence and harassment committed against women workers on the premise of feudal patriarchal relations at work and the inferior, vulnerable, and low-quality jobs mostly occupied by women workers, usually without clear-cut employee-employer relations and no mechanisms of redress. Masaklaw ang pakahulugan ng karahasan at panliligalig sa mundo ng paggawa. At dahil po dito,
Okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion to...
at tinutugunan at LGBTQIA+ sa mga espasyo ng paggawa. Mr. Chair, lastly, Mr. Chair, yung ILO Convention po 90 will provide an enabling and comprehensive framework in addressing sexual harassment and abuse cases at work and will provide the impetus for the crafting of necessary national policies that will further protect women and LGBTQIA+ in the workforce. Thus, we hope the committee will adopt this resolution. To support the growing clamor for this ratification, labanan po natin ang abuso sa mundo ng paggawa. Ratify C-190. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we have a motion from Representative Marco to approve and consolidate all House resolutions on ILO. The motion is approved. Congratulations to all the authors here, present, and online. Our most awaited item.
Mr. Chair, I move that all members present online and physically here be made co-authors of the House resolutions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The motion is approved. All the members here, present, and online will be included as co-authors of House Resolution 3285 and 271. So our most awaited item in the agenda, motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Masarap.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr.